Hello and welcome to Rule Zero. So as you can see, we've got a packed panel today to discuss the vexed question of what do women look for in a long-term partner. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But of what do women look for in a long-term
I do that sometimes too.
Sorry, getting some feedback on there. Sorry, hang on a sec, guys.
Yeah, you got to go mute the YouTube.
There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Right, okay.
Troy's a rookie at this.
Absolutely. Sorry,
learning.
Sorry, everybody, for that. As you can see, we've got a packed panel today. So before we dive into this topic, let's just say hi to everybody. It's good to see you guys. We've got Ryan Stone, we've got John from Modern Life Dating, we've got Rollo, and we've got Rich Cooper from Entrepreneurs in Cars. So how is everybody this week? Have you all had a good week?
Real good.
Fantastic, as usual.
Had a good 2.5 hours on Wednesday, and I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm going to do an ASMR channel now. It's going to be 10 hours of me going, Hypergamy doesn't care.
It'll be strangely comforting and yet soothing at the same time.
Soothing and send me your children.
Nobody will interrupt you for 10 hours straight as you talk about hypergamy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to like extend your S's and your P's when you do ASMR. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and did you see we had people developing a MGTOW flag so we can compete with Pride for a month of like shopping among Starbucks people?
We should do that
Really?
in February. We should have like a
oh man,
like a Valentine's Day replacement. We'll call it Steak and BJ Day or something like that.
Yeah.
That's actually March 14th.
It's not a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
It's a great day. And I just wish it was observed more properly. I mean, we have it in the UK, but it's not. Most girls don't really properly observe it, and I think that should be made mandatory in law. So perhaps that's something we can push for politically.
I just call it Tuesday. All right, fair enough, though.
Good stuff. All right. So look, the impetus for this discussion today is a piece of research which actually Rich brought to our attention earlier in the week, which was a survey of 64,000 women asking what they look for in a partner. This was done by, it's a collaboration between Clue, who apparently are a menstrual cycle app, and a menstrual cycle tracking app, whatever that does, and the University of Göttingen in Germany and My One Condom. So anyway, they put together this piece of research. They spoke to 64,000 women and a few guys as well, and some other people who sort of identify as somewhere in between. And they basically asked them various questions related to what they look for in a partner. So it seems like this is a good sort of jumping off place, really, in order to sort of get this conversation going. Because I think, we're all interested in what it is that women actually look for in partners, short-term and long-term. And I'm sure a lot of the people watching this are as well. So what this survey seems to come up with is some stuff that, to me, looks like it's been somewhat sugar-coated by the participants. I don't know if other people would agree with that. I mean, obviously, we could dive a little bit into the sort of the methodology of this. I mean, one thing that struck me when I was looking at the ages of the people that they spoke to, a lot of them were in the 18 to 24-year-old age group, which would suggest a lot of them are college students, university students. So that might have something of a bearing on this. But the thing that came up as being, for a long-term partner, the most important trait was kindness at 88.9%, followed by supportiveness, intelligence, education, etc. Now, it was a little bit different for short-term partnerships, as you'd expect, and we'll go into that in a minute. But I mean, are people smelling BS here already?
Well,
or do you
based off any survey, you're assuming that these people are telling the truth. That's like the flaw with surveys.
Self-reporting is always going to be the flaw.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a self-reported survey, and as I say, all of these women, 88.9% of these 64,000 women are saying that kindness is the most important trait over looks. But this, bearing in mind, is for a long-term partner. So when you, and probably no surprises for anybody here, but when you go to look at short-term partners, the situation is slightly different. So physical attributes become more important. So good looks become more important, muscles, height, all of those kinds of things. And that is, Rollo, I think that's pretty much what we would expect, isn't it, in terms of how.
Hey, I shared the I shared the. If you look down in their little screen there, I shared the actual article here. So if you want to put it up, you can. But my take on this, of course, is like pretty much any other self-reported take, which is that you're dealing with women who are telling you what they would like in their ideal partner. So it's almost like going on to OkCupid or filling out a profile, like a dating profile. And what I always find interesting is usually, see, it's a seller's market for women in like OkCupid or Match.com. So they pretty much just enumerate whatever it is that they think is going to be good for them in the long term. And because most of these women are, steeped in social media, it's this, what Royce has called the 436 bullet point checklist. And so you have this, it's just this laundry list of prerequisites for guys who need to qualify to her, no matter what she is, of course, but have to qualify to her in order to become intimate with her. And the thing that the starting point here before we get into some of these, I think it's important to remember that when women are asked, what is it that you want in a guy? And I can remember as far back as being like 16 or 17 years old and asking that exact same question back in the 80s. What do women really want? Like nobody on planet Earth has ever asked that question before my 14-year-old brain did. Right. And it's all, and back then, of course, I didn't realize this, and it took me some time to understand, is that when women are asked what it is they're looking for in a guy, they always default to the long term. They're always looking for, well, what am I attracted to? Like what are you attracted to? Women will always default to the beta buck side of hypergamy, and they will shy away as much as they can from the alpha seed side of hypergamy, because that is a little more raw, and that is more exclusionary than the beta buck side. So when a woman says, I need a guy who's kind, I need a guy with a good heart, I need a guy who goes to church, I need a guy who loves puppy dogs, I need a guy who loves his mother, I need a guy who wants children, I need all, he has to have a job, he has to have guys can pick up on that and go, yeah, hey, great, I can do that, awesome, yeah, that sounds like something I can do. When in fact, the real litmus test is like how good they look, how hot they are, how available they are. If you go and you look at the stuff that's on, you look at Tinder, that's a whole different list of criteria than when people are asked to survey, what is it that you want? So I think the important thing, the starting point here, is to remember that what a woman is aroused by is the alpha seed, alpha fuck side of hypergamy. What women are attracted to is the long-term beta buck side, provisioning side.
Exactly. And I mean, it's interesting that they divide this down between obviously short-term and long-term. So they which is kind of interesting because it suggests that even the researchers have a sense that, whether they admit it or not, the researchers have an idea of this sort of dual strategy, don't they? In asking that question, because otherwise they would have just a blanket question, what do you look for in a guy? But because they break it down between long and short-term, it does indicate that there's some understanding out there that actually, women are looking for different things. And of course, the different things they're looking for are exactly as Rollo identifies, alpha chadness, in terms of the short-term lay. So they're looking for a dude who's got big muscles, jawline, height, all of the classic sort of things.
6 foot.
I'll do you one better, though. Think of this, those short-term rates. When the girls are talking long-term comes from short-term. Those short-term guys, that's the pool that they're deciding for long-term. So when they talk about kindness being the greatest trait, of course, once he meets all those short-term considerations, among those guys, I'm going to pick the kind Chad as opposed to the ass Chad. Yep. So when a lot of guys see that, they're like, oh, so I don't have to do this. Like, I don't have to do grade 1 in order to finish college. Like, no, you kind of have to finish elementary school first.
Hey, Troy, I got a screen there up on the bottom. If you can just throw it into the StreamYard broadcast.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, here we go.
This is
Richard, a little low, brother.
Okay, I'm a little low?
Just slightly. Maybe increase by like 10%,
let me turn this up a little bit. How's that?
A little bit more.
Really? Hang on. How's that? Better?
Yeah,
better?
right there.
Is that better?
Now you're not ASMR.
For some reason, it's not pulling in the screen that I put up on the bottom there.
Which one are you looking for? Because he's got on mine right now.
Sorry.
Got me on there.
Yeah, throw on. Yeah, there you go. So this is a 2008 study that David Buss put out, and I think this is probably a little more accurate than the one that we're looking at that just came out recently, because this is reflective of the choices they actually make. and hypothesized good gene indicators near the top was more masculine, physically attractive. Investment ability indicators were potential income, so the ability to make money later on down the road in the future, and good earning capacity currently. The good parenting indicators were desire for home and children, fond of children. And it's interesting to note that kind and understanding on this survey result from Bus, which I think is probably more accurate because he's an Evo Psych guy. Kindness and understanding was more towards the bottom, and good partner indicators were, being a loving partner, devoted to you, loyal.
I like how intelligence at the bottom over there at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm smart.
And actually
Who
did a
gives a
video
shit?
to break that down back in 2017. I'll just drop it in the chat, so watch it after this broadcast. But I just wanted to show you that component of it there too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, would you think, Rich, that this kind of article, this kind of advice can actually be quite damaging to guys in a sense? Because a dude who doesn't watch Rule Zero, who isn't aware of your guys' work and all the rest of it, is going to look at this and think, oh, well, all I have to do then is be really kind and really nice, and I'm going to meet my dream woman, and it's all going to be brilliant.
Well, yeah, that's the lie that everybody gets told, right? Is they subscribe to that notion of just be kind, but it's like Ryan pointed out, the whole kindness element of it all falls into play where it comes down to the more long-term choices that they make, and they're going to pick the more kinder Chad than the more alpha Chad that's more of an asshole. Yeah,
definitely. I think certainly for long term. I mean, I guess, but it does beg the question, doesn't it? Because we talk a lot about, or it's often spoken about that assholes get the girl, that jerks get the girl, and they do. But it's not a long-lasting strategy, is it? Right? Or at least, either if it is, you've got to be a jerk, but you've got to be a jerk with a heart as well. So it does kind of give the lie to this idea that you can.
But asshole's like what a codependent calls a guy who's self-actualized. All an asshole is the guy who's just self-interested.
Yeah.
He doesn't call himself an asshole. He's not an asshole. It's guys that aren't getting what he gets that call him an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's one of those meaningless terms. All it means is that I'm jealous of the success you're having because you aren't worried about hurting somebody else's feelings by doing your thing. And is he really an ass, though? Because everybody else seems to be on board with it, except for the one seething beta male who wanted his girl.
Yeah, absolutely. What about John? Do you find that kindness is a big element in your pussy hound repertoire?
Well, it's funny. Like that's like the go-to thing girls in Japan say. They're like, I like Americans because they do lady first and they're so kind. Because like Japanese guys get a pretty hard rap, but Japanese guys are like really, really red-pilled, way more than the Americans are. Asia in itself is red-pilled. Like they've already come to the conclusion, and like there's no doubt that there's only two genders. They're like, yeah, being fat is unhealthy. Like we've sorted this shit out thousands of years ago. And the average Japanese guy is just ultra red-pilled, and to an extent, they are slightly cruel to the women. But if you've ever been to Tokyo and you've taken a walk on these streets, or pretty much anywhere in Japan, you see how beautiful these women are everywhere you go. And the girls here, they say, "Oh, I want a kind guy. I like guys who are kind and stuff." And it's a common thing I hear, just like from Japanese girls. They say that they want kindness. But the reality is, what a woman says is not worth anything. You have to always judge them by their actions. And then who are they going with? They're going with the cruel alpha, the Japanese alpha. They're going with the guy who looks at them and is like, well, you're not that cute, and you weigh more than 40 kilograms. So it's like, I don't know why you're so fat, but I'm really not going to deal with this. And again, like kindness. I think that what they say is completely reflected into this, and this is why the average guy, take a perspective from the average guy. Like, you're trying to figure these things out, and say you're a relatively smart guy, you start researching studies and stuff, and you read this, and you're like, oh well, this data shows that I should be kind, and it seems to make sense on a surface level, but that's the tricky part of like red pill reality and blue pill lies. Like, it's very hard to find the red pill, and you can only get it through experience, and like you can't just read about it and learn. Like, you have to actually get out there and test it and see what works for you. And that's why a lot of these guys, so when I coach these guys in consultations or body language mastery or whatever, like I give these guys the turbo red pill, and I'm like, yo, you got to say this and this, you do it like this, and it like, I sent them in a hyperdrive to like the fucking red pill, and they're just like, whoa, dude, like, are you sure I should say this? Are you sure I should do this? Like, this doesn't, this is scary. And then it works, and they come back to me like, dude, can I book another consultation? Like, it's like crack for these dudes.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
It's extremely counterintuitive.
Troy, there's another chart that I pulled up from the new study. Just throw that one up on the screen because it says the importance of height. And from this new study, it's putting the importance of height around a 4 out of 6, with 6 being the most important and 0 being the lowest. Women are placing it as a 4, but we all know that's not true because anytime you've seen their long laundry list of requirements when it comes to dating apps, it's swipe left if you're not over 6 foot tall. So there's always going to be a conflict between what they say and they do, right?
Well, here, girls have this thing with IQ tests where their spatial logic is not as good as men. We needed it for like hunting reasons and that. So if she likes you, she'll think you're 8'12". Yeah. Same as your dick. Honestly, a girl gets with you. Oh, his dick is huge. It's awesome. It's the best I've ever had. As soon as you break up, it's 3 inches long and tiny.
Yeah. One thing actually on this survey that may be some small comfort to people watching this is that apparently penis size is not actually that important, although maybe we should be skeptical about this as well.
Until you start having the conversation with them.
Well, what they're saying is that in general, an average sized dick is better or preferable to a larger dick, and I think that's, I don't know, maybe they've had some bad experiences where it's been so big that it's.
No, there's some girls over here when I whip it out, they're like, "Yo, that's not what I'm used to," and some girls they legit get terrified by it.
Is that the definition of a humble brag?
Yeah,
I can show you later, Troy. I'll show you later. I'll send you a
See, here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with that. The problem I have with that bullshit, that line of bullshit about, oh, I want an average size dick or whatever. First of all, I've done like at least 2 different essays about like how important like penis size actually is. But the easiest giveaway is, what's the first insult women will default to when they want to insult a guy? Yeah. Well, I bet you have a little dick. I bet you have a little, like, what was it? Imagine having such a small dick that you X, Y, and Z. It's all over Twitter. It's all over Facebook. It's all over every social media. Whenever a woman disagrees with a guy, the first schoolyard attack that they throw at you is, I bet you have a little dick. Right. Yeah, or like, remember when what was it, man spreading? The reason that women have a problem with man spreading is not because guys are taking up too much space. It's because guys who spread like that's an alpha cue. That's saying, like, and most guys don't understand that, but like when a guy spreads his legs a little bit, women their hindbrains interpret that as a sexual display. And that what that means is, I'm so confident in myself that I'll spread my legs because I know that I'm an alpha. What's the first place that women will attack? It's not about space. It's not like women don't go this. They don't push your legs together. They kick you in the nuts. They throw bleach on your balls on the subway, right? That's because it's an attack on the genitalia. And that right there shows you just how important, or just, I should say this, that's how women instinctually, their hindbrain knows that is the place to attack. That's where, because that's an important part of a man's body.
And girls only care so much as it's hurt, painful or not. Because I know if you guys follow any of like the Tinder confession stories and that, a lot of girls, they don't sleep with the guy on the first date, but they'll go down on him just so they know what they're dealing with, to make sure it's not the kind of thing that's going to destroy them for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, so I would say that's
I'm not a slut. I'm just going to suck your dick on the first date. We're not having sex. Or you can fuck me in the ass, but we're not having sex on the first
that's the thing.
date.
They don't want, like,
and there goes the monetization.
Yeah, you get a girl who's got enough of a
happening. This is happening. This is the truth. Like, there are girls that are like, hey, I'm a virgin for the Lord, so you can fuck me in the ass, but you can't fuck me in the vagina. And this is like girl rationale.
Just you get a girl with a big enough based on soaking the other day.
Oh, what was that? What was that all about? What was
soaking? So soaking is a new Mormon. Well, I don't know if it's new, but it's used as an excuse by a lot of Mormons because they're not supposed to have sex before marriage. So what they'll do is they'll slide it in there, but there's no pumping. It's just a soak, and they use that as an excuse to say that they're still a virgin if they've only soaked.
Well, so they just don't move. They don't move it.
They just don't move it. Like, it's whatever. They just.
I love it. I love it. It's just so the level of female delusion is like hilarious to me. As I get older, I just see it more and more and more happening, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. It's pure comedy. It's better than fucking
loves running on that wheel, man.
Dude,
why not just do a hand job or something like that?
I'm not in high school. I don't need no ham job. We're doing this.
I'm a man. There's going to be some sliding in here, man.
as a slightly peripheral issue, but there's a sort of hypocrisy, isn't there? Because women will always complain about body shaming, and they'll complain about things like shaming of sexuality and stuff. And yet whenever anybody does something to upset them en masse, the first things they'll come back with is, you've got a small dick and you're probably gay. Do you know what I mean? So it completely throws out. So
it's disqualification.
If you do one of those, like I think, like similar to what Rich has done recently, one of those lists where you talk about requirements, you know, for in a female partner, and they get really angry, then suddenly it's all like, oh, you must have a small dick, you must be gay, and it's sort of like, well, hang on a minute, I thought we weren't supposed to do body shaming anymore. How come it's all right the other way around? You know. But interestingly, right, so on the survey, it does say that there are slightly different elements to a short-term partnership, as you'd expect. So it says here, they're more likely to view physical traits such as attractive face and body as being important. But then they say kindness still tops all other personality backgrounds, etc. And then it goes down into sort of talking about the most important physical characteristics, and they are an attractive smile, eyes, but they also like muscular arms, large hands, an attractive back, etc. And then it says an average size penis was preferred to a large penis by 52%. Facial hair more desirable than a clean shaven face.
Really?
Yeah. So what?
Can you
I
put
think
it on
what
screen or no?
Hey, I have it right here. Just click me up right there, Troy.
Have you got it? Hang on a sec. Oh yeah, here we go.
That's still in the thing. There we go. So this is the kindness thing. I thought this was kind of interesting because it's like, for all the BS that women say about how they want like an equal partner, or they want like somebody who's economically attractive, education is still pretty up there. But for all the hemming and hawing about intelligence and education, it doesn't rate quite so high, at least according to this. Now, the other thing is like, as we're going through this, I think another thing that people need to understand is that it's the observer effect. Is observing a process will change that process. So if a woman knows she's being set up for a survey like this, she's going to answer in ways that she thinks are going to sound right, that are going to make her sound like, not like a slut, not like, you know.
Yeah. Well, everybody has to be watching her. And
you know, it's funny, if you take that list and you actually invert it, I would say that's the reality. Confidence is number one, and education is number two, intelligence number three, supportiveness.
Observation.
Kindness is, I mean, how many of you guys on this panel kindness your way into some vagina before?
Right. Yeah. Good idea. Yeah.
Well, never. I mean, it's just never been a good strategy. I mean, when I was using kindness as a strategy, I was a virgin. You know, I mean, it's only when you stop using it that you start to things start to happen for you. But I mean, you know, only in the sense that if she thinks you're a complete psycho serial killer, maybe she's not going to be less likely to get in a cab with you. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, as Rollo said, I mean, it's a nice to have if she's already attracted to the guy. She's thinking of the ripped, you know, Tyler Durden in Fight Club kind of dude. And she's thinking, yeah, if he's really kind as well, that would be nice. Well, yeah, of course. But if you don't have the ripped alpha Chad bit first, then you're playing a losing hand.
Well, you've got to have the dark triad, to some degree. You've got to have dark triad traits to get to the point where she can appreciate kindness. Like, so what guys always do, this is very similar to when guys throw this at me. They'll say, well, you need to be vulnerable, man. Well, you're not masculine enough, or you're not secure in your masculinity enough to be vulnerable.
Stedman's the only one, really.
Yeah, okay, well, but you hear it often enough where guys
term, guys,
like
and Stedman.
Yeah, well, when I God damn it. When I write about vulnerability, like there was no Stedman when I wrote that essay. It was me actually kind of contradicting Mark Manson at the time. Mark Manson in his book, Mates or something. What the hell was that?
Models, I think.
Models, yeah. He expresses this idea that, it's vulnerability. If you can be vulnerable with a woman, she'll really appreciate that, and you'll let you in her world or something. And it's a lot of that book to me really kind of smacked of like beta, because it was
wife
very
edited
much,
it.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah, that too. But it was all about a man qualifying to a woman, and that's why I was a little bit hesitant to do this topic today, because just saying, hey, what does a woman want? Every MGTOW on planet Earth is going to go, who cares what they want, man? MGTOW, MGTOW, MGTOW. That's all you got to say is MGTOW, and your life will be better, right?
Well,
and it's like all you have to like. So what this is to me, like this kindness thing, is sort of along the lines of that vulnerability. And guys we're deductive problem solvers, and we also are competitors. We want to compete with each other. So if a woman says kindness is the number one trait, every beta on planet Earth who reads this is going to go, man, I'm going to be more kind than any other guy out there. I'm going to be the most kind mother effer that you could possibly be, because that will get me there. Look how kind I am. I brought you flowers, and I, adopted these dogs from the dog pound, and I'm just so damn kind. And like, now let's have sex. Like,
notice that's the theme, taking advice hyper literal and then screwing it up. That seems to be like the beta male theme,
because that's our instinct is to become, because men have a burden of performance, and we go, okay, what is that performance? Oh, vulnerability. I'll be the most vulnerable guy I could possibly be, because that will get me the hottest chick and get me up to the dominance hierarchy, because I'm like that. So they see this and they max this out. And at any chance that they see somebody not being kind or not being vulnerable, Varolus Mossy, God forbid, he writes a essay that's revealing the realities of vulnerability. Well, that's just him being misogynist, or that's just him. He's got these insecurities because I'm way more vulnerable than anybody else, and that's what women really want.
You know what this reminds me of,
I'm going to build a life about that.
This reminds me of guys who put those spinners on their Honda CRX. Like, the spinners only work if you put them on like a Phantom or something cool. You can't put them on your CRX.
On their Toyota Tacoma, that's like 1985.
$10,000 in upgrades on a car that's probably worth about $3,000.
There's an interesting point there, There's an interesting point there, though, isn't there? Which is, I mean, we've titled this show "What Do Women Want?" But actually, is the message here? I mean, to what extent should we be paying attention to this kind of thing?
Good question.
And really, is the strategy that men should be doing what the hell that they want to do, and if a woman wants to come along for the party, then great, and if she doesn't, then not. Yeah, exactly.
Women want to be led. They want to be with a giant. They don't want to be with some kind wimp, right? I mean, that might be somebody that they're going to settle for when they get past the epiphany phase and they've ridden the carousel and they've had enough of the chads and all that, and they'll start pumping out their OK Cupid, or what's the other one, Rollo? eHarmony, the eHarmony ones where it's like I'm looking for like that kind guy to settle down with, and I'm over all of that sort of thing. It's like, come on, man. We all, and then they'll go and take the guy through the divorce ringer like 7 to 10 years later and take half his shit, and he doesn't get to see his kids. So
that's just that. The other thing is, and there was actually one or two on here that I wanted to hit. Number 2 was wanting kids or not wanting kids. And then
I think that's real. The kids thing.
Yeah. 46% of women of all sexual orientations said that a potential partner's desire to parent was very important when considering a long-term mate. So it's not even 50% of them were really too much concerned about that.
But I mean, on the flip side of that, 43% of kids are raised in a single parent home, and it's not specifically stating single mothers, but we know that the vast majority of the time it is single mothers, right?
Yeah,
right. Why would you be worried about how good a parent a guy is until you want a baby? So if it's before they want one,
well,
they don't give a shit.
They don't actually care, because I mean,
this is
short-term thinking. They're taking on the alpha seed, and then they'll go to Bumble and look for some guy to take care of her when she's pregnant.
This was a really good one right here. Few women said ethnic or religious similarities are important traits in a long-term partner. So like 9.8% cared about like race mixing, I guess, for lack of a better term, and 25.
Obviously, no Indian woman did that study.
Yeah, exactly. And 25.4% said religious similarity makes any kind of difference to them. And I thought this was interesting because the desire to like find the ideal mate supersedes religious conviction, assuming they had any to begin with, but it supersedes that religious conviction. And that right there, I'm actually talking about that in my 4th book right now, is that when I talk about like the sisterhood uber alles, and I talk about how like whatever matters to the feminine imperative the most, or if like women will close ranks despite ethnic differences or religious differences, this is exactly what I mean. It's whatever is in the feminine imperative's best interest. It supersedes everything else. It supersedes religion. It supersedes ethnicity. It supersedes all of that stuff. So when guys say, well, I want a woman who's going to be I need a good quality sun hat Christian woman who's going to be blah, blah, blah. You know what? that only makes any difference like after she's had kids, after she's become a single mother, after she's got to a point where that would make any difference in her life whatsoever. And even then, it probably wouldn't make all that much of a difference to her.
Yeah, which I guess is I makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? But it does rather sort of undermine the tradcon position, whereby there's this idea that there's this good religious woman out there, and if you just find her, it's all going to be amazing. Because actually, like what we seem to be seeing is that those things are secondary, really, to getting the best genes. So it's all genetic, isn't it? In the end.
Yeah, I love how they ditch the number 4 here is an attractive smile. That if you could like make a list of all the things that would sound right, that would make a woman sound like, oh, we're all high quality, we're all down to earth. We just want you to smile at us. We just want you to have a 6-inch penis. That's okay, just an average size. Like, oh, we don't care about what your pecs look like or your 6-pack abs or you got a dad bod. It's okay as long as you got a good smile. Like all of this stuff is just, it's just supposed to like impress upon men that women are these just like, it's like guys who are like the fiendish assholes. Like we're the guys that we want a good hot ass.
I'm actually surprised that these Invisalign braces companies aren't taking surveys like this and saying, hey, the number one thing that women look for is a great smile. So sign up for our Invisalign program.
Yeah. Well, John, you're out in the trenches a lot. What do you think? I mean, what's your sense of what women are really looking for at the moment? I mean, is it what's the, or do you ever ask for feedback after you've done the deed? Do you ever say, because I know I've done it in the past, I know some people do this where they say, what was it that made you want to come back with me? What was it that made
it varies from woman to woman. I was out tonight, right, and I was looking fly. And I had my rattlesnake shoes on, had my fucking pea coat, had my fucking Chad gear. I was looking real hotdude.com. And this married Kiwi girl came up to me. Kiwis are from New Zealand, for you guys don't know. And she came up to me and she's like, I just want to tell you, you look absolutely gorgeous. I was like, shit, I know I do, woman. And she was like, and then she was like, then she started talking to me about her. She's like, well, I can hang out with you, but my husband's coming to see me in 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm free tomorrow. And she's like, you know why I came up to you? I was like, no, what's up? She was like,
gotta be the shoes.
She was like, she's like, your fashion is great and you're gorgeous. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then I just got her digits, and then she started hitting on me and whatever. But I would say it's case by case. It is what one woman, actually, Troy, you had a pretty profound tweet about this a couple of, I would say about a month or two ago, when you said like, you just need to approach because it's different strokes for different folks. Like some women will look at me and, have a good sense because of like, God, he's so handsome. And then they'll look at Ryan and they'll be like, what is that? Like, why is that guy even, what is he doing out of his cage? But then there's other women who will look at Ryan and be like, God, Ryan is so handsome and good looking. And he's
the freckles.
He's dressed like Carlton from Fresh Prince. He looks fucking amazing.
Dude, you're the one who's dressed like Carl's brother from Die Hard. Jesus.
And they'll look at me and be like, that guy is repulsive. I hate him. So it's like, there's different strokes for different folks. But I think uniformly, there's really what women are, they really, really like. Like Richard said, women want to be led. And the number one qualification for a leader is a man that has confidence to actually say, I'm going to lead. I'm going to go my own way. That's the real MGTOW. A man who's just like, fuck it. I'm just going to live life on my own terms. Like how Richard did, how I did, how you did, Troy, how we just said, hey, fuck the system. We're going to do it. We're going to live life on our own terms. And it takes balls to do that because we are born into a society of system that's a controlled thing that they want you to go to college, get into debt.
There's a chance of failing if you do it this way.
Well, they want you to go to college. They want you to get into debt, and they want you to fucking play the whole 9-to-5 game, and then get your 401k and die when you're 74.8 years old or whatever. But when you have the balls to be like, hey, listen, I'm just going to live life on my own terms. That's confidence, and that right there is a quintessential point that is, I think, universally attractive to all women, because like some Japanese girls, they tell me, they're like, God, you're so brave to like come out here and like not know the language, not know the culture, and like make a life. Like I would never think to leave Japan because it's so scary out there, and vice versa. Like, you know, you I know, Troy, you do some time in Germany and stuff.
Yeah.
And going your own way and being a confident man is a huge, I think, universal factor in attraction that will never go anywhere, because most people in general, I feel, they are afraid sheep, and they are actually looking for a shepherd. And in a context of dating, when you happen to be good looking, you have your shit together, you got a good body, you're not a fat slob, you know, and you've got your money together relatively, you know, that right there, I think is a huge rarity in our world, and it's getting even more rare. So I think that is one universal factor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, you make an interesting point, and I think that was sort of from off the back of something Mystery said that I did that tweet. I think Mystery said something along the lines of you could never know a woman's physical type until you actually approach, and I found that to be incredibly true because like you said, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure probably many guys have had this experience, but I've been horribly rejected by absolute, you know, hogwarts.
Who hurt you?
To be honest, I mean, no, I've been horribly rejected by the detritus of the nightclub at 5 a.m. You know, the worst possible sort of, you know. I mean,
doesn't that almost hurt your feelings?
You know,
really.
You know the Star Wars, you know, the bar scene in Star Wars. I mean, like we're talking that kind of caliber, and you know, and these girls have just blown me out. And then
how dare you?
Then you go and talk to a, you know, somebody you might consider to be a 9 if you want to put it on that scale, and she's really into you, and you start dating her. So there's no real rhyme or reason to it in terms of physical type, and I think dudes have to just, to some extent, you just have to go out there and just throw the, you know, throw the dice and just let it fall where it may, really. But one thing people don't realize, confidence, though, like you said, is the one thing you can't argue with, because if you're confident in your approach, even if she ends up rejecting you, she's still going to respect you more.
2 points. Like, first of all, I want to build on what Troy said, was like, you guys got to realize hot girls are hot for a reason, and ugly girls, you know, people like think like ugly girls are easier, but the reality is 9 times out of 10, like, attractive women are usually attractive for a reason. If you meet their standards, it's going to go pretty easy. But when you got a pig woman running around, and she's already dealing with all of her insecurities. Like, first of all, women are like infinitesimally way more insecure than men. Even the fucking hottest of the hottest women, she is like writhing in insecurity. And you know, just to step up and have the balls to do it, because most men don't. Most men are cowards in this sense of pickup artistry stuff, or approaching women, and they think logically, like a man would do. He'd be like, well, she's less attractive, therefore she'll be easier. And it happens to me too. Like, one time, I've had tons of pig women be like, you know, oh, I'm not gonna do that with you, and I'm just like, what? How dare you? Like, do you need LASIK? Like, you're missing out on the total package here, lady.
Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly is to the bone.
All over
So, you know, I definitely think that's a universal thing, because I've experienced that. I mean, across the globe, I've had like, and it's funny, like hot girls. Hot girls are usually easier to deal with if there's no mental damage going on up there. Like, a hot girl who has like a decent upbringing, like, way easier than, like, you know, because ugly comes from comes from a source. You got to realize, like, what's going on outside is a reflection of what's going on inside. That's a big thing that a lot of guys don't seem to factor into the equation here.
That's true. But another thing to bear in mind is that the survey divides it down into short-term and long-term. But as somebody said earlier, the reality is, or certainly in my experience, unless you're playing beta schlub game, the reality is that a long-term partnership comes out of a short-term thing anyway. Like, all of the girls that I've dated and ended up dating longer term, it started off because I've approached them as a is the kind of the player archetype, if you like. And then they've liked me and they've enjoyed spending time with me, and then it's become a longer relationship. So people need to bear that in mind as well. It's not really the best strategy to go in with the provider game, I wouldn't say. I think it's always better to open the interaction in a sexual way and then allow it to grow out of that, if you see what I mean. So you're always
a lot of guys get stuck in the friend zone too.
Yes,
they'll try to approach it from the kinder, gentler, let's be friends. What can I do to assist you? How can I make myself less so you can be more? And that's where they go incredibly wrong.
And girls hate that because they read in between the lines and
nothing
know that
dries them up more than that.
Well,
they know you're being snaky. They're like, this is guy's being dishonest, compared to like if you're just straight up dirtbag, like, yo, babe, you got some great tits. Yeah. Let's go do this. They're more likely to have more respect for you.
Well, that's because girls have experience. Since they were 13, hundreds of guys have been doing this. So you think you're the first guy who thought to sneak your way into her pants with kindness? No, like she's seen how that game ends.
No, and then
the guy who's flat out honest is
women are not out at clubs because they're looking for the guy who's going to say, "Oh, it's okay, babe. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to, I'll be a great father for your kids." No. They're not in those clubs hanging out with their girlfriends, grinding their asses on other guys because they're looking for a husband. Okay, they're there because they want excitement and entertainment. And
they're looking for short-term.
They're looking for short. Exactly. I discussed this on Friday when I was talking about the misconceptions of hypergamy. Is that when a woman is in that proliferative phase, when she's in that part of her menstrual cycle, she's not looking for Mr. Dependable, Mr. Loyal, Mr. I'm going to do my kids' homework guy. She's looking for the guy who's fun and exciting and is going to, she wants to have a sexual experience. And what happens is guys think that, like if they're more dependable, if they prove they feel like they got to prove their quality to milady, right? I'm going to be the most dependable guy you've ever wanted. I'm a great emotional tampon. I'm a great, I'm a shoulder for you to cry on kind of stuff. She'll be happy to entertain that, but not in a sexual sense. She'll be happy to have you as an orbiter. She'll be happy to have you there when she's complaining about the guys she did want to have sex with back, a week ago. She'll be happy to have you on there as that. But what happens is guys get into this idea that they have to prove themselves as being, good potential husbands or good potential fathers, like good dads, when a woman is really looking for the good CAD at that particular time. And those guys, like you're saying before there, John, is they are uncomfortable with that process. They're scared. Well, you could say, well, they're fearful of it, but they don't know what to do. They're out of their element. So when they're saying, hey, I'm a good dad, I'm a good quality dude, come and give me a chance. I can't. And these guys, I'm sure you've heard this, like most beta guys are just dumbfounded. Like, I can't, she's such a good girl. She's so fantastic. She's so great. She's this, blah, blah, blah. She's so hot. Can't she see that those guys are jerks? Can't she see that those guys are just no good for her? And I'm the best. Like it's like confusing to them, and they get frustrated that this hot, beautiful girl that they have like this usually one-itis for, but she fits his sort of genetic celebrity, this lifetime celebrity. Like if I could just get in with her, if I could just prove to her that I'm like the most dependable, loyal, great guy for her in the long term. And how come she can't see that? And well, of course, she's 23, 24 years old. She's not interested in what you have to offer. Not yet. Maybe when you get to be 30, she will be, but not now. She's more interested in Mr. Exciting and Mr. Fun and having, sex in the foam cannon party on spring break with that guy. But those guys, the reason they get frustrated is because they don't know what to do with sexual urgency. They don't know what to do with the seduction side of an approach. So what do? They hurry through it as quick as they can to get to comfort, familiarity, rapport. All the third stage of the seduction that mystery talks about in the mystery method type thing, which I kind of still have. I'm not 100% sold on that section of it, but
so suave loyalist.
Yeah. Well, these guys, like most beta, most blue pill men are uncomfortable with the sexual tension side or the sexual anxiety, instilling dread, being cocky and funny and all that. They don't want that because they've never been good at it in the first place. And they think that their strengths are actually the beta buck side of hypergamy. And that might even be true. but they never get to that point because the chick that they want to get with doesn't see them as exciting or doesn't see them as fun or whatever. So they get friend zoned, like Rich was saying, because most of the time they just simply don't know what to do with themselves in the more hot, exciting, face to face, press the flesh kind of, part of that production.
When they go to
boils down to. Sorry, I just want to say one thing real quick. Here's what it all boils down to, right? When guys start to pay attention and they see that women will sit there moaning and complaining and whinging about wanting, Mr. Kind and gentle and all that sort of stuff, then what they have to do is watch them go off and fuck Mr. Exciting. And as soon as they see the contrast between what they're saying and what they're doing, the actions always express her priorities, right?
Yes.
I would argue it's as close as you can get to a psychological disorder, or what I call unhealthy narcissism.
Yeah.
Because Rollo put it himself. He looks at that girl. How can she have all these qualities that I picture as my perfect woman doing things that I don't expect her to do? That's not a very humanizing argument. That's not looking at a girl as a human being. That's looking at her as a dream. This is your dream archetype, and that's an unhealthy level of narcissism. Now, the problem comes with, and Rich is right, you'll see that same kind of guy watch that perfect girl get screwed over by Chad, and he'll, instead of understanding that maybe his model for women is wrong, he'll treat that as a narcissistic injury. And that's why guys will lash out at those Chads. That's why you get guys like Pat Stemman saying, hey, you pickup guys, stop breaking our women. Mm-hmm. That's why if you tell a guy, yeah, dude, your wife just cheated on you with me, he gets mad at you instead of thanking you for the advice and ditching the wife.
Yeah,
it's because you're actually attacking their mental models of the world, their ego-invested pedestallation of women.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's not a woman. It's not Stacy. It's not Karen. It's women. Trademark.
Yeah, it is a mental model of the world, though. And I mean, for me, I was talking about this. I did a stream yesterday, and I've been talking about this week. For me, everything changed. I mean, when I broke out of the old mental model, that you had to be the kind guy. The provisioning, sort of comforting, nice guy kind of thing was the thing that was going to win the day. And I think the problem is that, as we all know, this is what we're taught. This is what society and mainstream media and movies and everything else teaches us. That's the lesson that we get. And as soon as you break out of that,
and you treat them like human
however
beings,
that happens, everything changes for you, and your experience in the sexual marketplace completely alters. But for me, it was like night and day, really. I mean, I was being, I was raised on sort of 80s feel-good rom-com type movies, and I thought that's what you had to be like. I genuinely believed that, you were the nice, if you were the nice guy at college and you were sensitive and poetic and everything, and one day she'd read, the poem that you'd written in your exercise book, and she'd be like, oh my God, Troy's such a great guy. And then it would all sort of just naturally come together.
He made me a mixtape.
Yeah. I had no
proud to admit I've done it myself in high school. Still didn't get laid.
Who's all done a mixtape?
I have.
Yeah.
I've gotten laid from it though. I've gotten laid from it.
Suckers. Yes.
I did a love letter.
Dude, I did.
No
a lot of people are watching right now, going, "What's a mixtape?"
I did a Christian worship CD. I did a Christian worship CD that got me laid in youth church.
And she must have been a high quality woman as well.
You better believe it, brother. Going back to what Rollo says, just to sum it all up, when girls go to nightclubs, they're not looking for Mr. Right. They're looking for Mr. Right now.
Yeah.
It's a big difference there.
Exciting and fun. They want something that's going to be like, and this is the part, to talk about what Troy was saying, this is a part that a lot of beta guys, a lot of blue pill guys, guys who are plugged in, they just don't want to get over because their conditioning has taught them to always defer to the feminine, always put the woman on the pedestal. Even when they say, well, I don't put a woman on the pedestal, I put myself on. But then it comes out in other ways. It comes out like they say, well, I'm not making her the focus of my life. Yeah, but you kind of are. Because if any guy comes along and says, look, like you were saying before, if she cheats on you with your best friend, you get mad at the best friend. You don't get mad at her because you have her as you pedestalize her. She's still pedestalized. And I think that a lot of guys don't realize just how deep that pedestalization goes. That's why I always say, you know, mental point of origin is so very, very important, because it has to be literally be your first thought. And the only way you're going to get there is by pushing women off that pedestal, and womankind off the pedestal, not just like one single woman or your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. It has to be all women. You have to put yourself in front of all of that. And if you don't do that, you will never understand that. That's why guys like Stedman will say, like, well, you guys are ruining our women for us, you know? Well, that's because you place those women on that pedestal so much so that you don't want to see what their actions are. You don't want to see what it is that they're doing, unless
and the wrong pronoun, yours.
Yeah.
No, not yours.
Unless they are so like egregiously bad. Like when I say the worst thing that I've ever said to guys like this is that there's no such thing as a quality woman. What do you mean there's no such thing as a quality? I can't believe you would say something like that. You know, there's women that are better than other women. First of all, that's not what I'm saying. Saying your quality woman idea is an ideal.
Yeah, your mental model.
It's a fantasy. It's a mental model that you're using.
Well,
go ahead.
There's an interesting thing, actually, Rollo. I wanted to ask a question here, which is that I suppose there's a sense from the purple pill guys that it's more than a sense. This is what they say. There are some women out there. So hypergamy. People have got this big bugbear with hypergamy, right? But they say no. There are women out there. Hypergamy, yes, of course, exists, but there are women out there who don't act on it, or they have it to a much lesser extent than other women. And what they
where
say,
are these bitches at?
No, well, and what they say,
they qualify it. They make it an after the fact qualification.
And what they say is that if you aren't meeting those women, if you're not attracting those women, then that's because you are yourself broken. So if you reach inside and heal yourself, then you're going to start to meet these higher quality women who don't act on their hypergamy to the same degree. I mean, what's your response to that? Because
women don't act on.
There's a grain of truth, isn't there, in a sense?
Yeah.
If you're really fucked up, if you're shooting up heroin every night and you're in a fucked up state, the likelihood is you're going to attract fucked up people into your life.
Yeah,
I can accept that.
Yeah.
And some of them may be really hot. But I can accept that. But where the logic for me falls down is this idea that if you just self-actualize and, you know, get all your chakras aligned, you're going to attract the perfect partner. I just don't buy that bullshit at all. But I don't know what other people think of that.
It's self-interested. Self-actualization is for you, not for them. Self-actualization is for you.
Oh,
it's not for them. That's the whole point, though. That's why I think I am agreeing with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I saw Pat Stedman the other day tweeting, and sort of Ajax will say things like this as well. Whereas if you just get right with yourself, if you just become the idealized man, then the sorts of people you're going to attract are going to be better.
Woman.
And he also said suntanning your asshole was probably a good idea. So I mean, take it.
Black chug and sunshine. That's my new word.
We're talking about a guy who could barely deadlift 315, and another guy who claims to be straight. He's like, yeah, I think doing ballet is a solid idea. You know, this is people. I don't even know why we're talking about these.
Probably a good idea.
I don't even know why we're talking about these bums. These guys are
because they're watching the cast right now, taking screenshots. You know,
beta guys who are all they're good at is cultivating an audience on the internet, and that's all it is. And they just happen to be saying some shit that's incorrect because why? Because these guys aren't getting fucking results. That's why they come literally crying to Rollo. That's why they come to me and they're like, oh my God, you know, I got conned out of money for listening to this dude's advice. And then they're like, well, like, why doesn't this work? He's like, well, just pay me more. And my prices have gone up, and then we'll sort you out down the road. But you got guys like Rich, you got guys like me, you got guys like Rollo. You book 1 hour call, fucking for Rich, he'll knock this shit out and handle you in 15 minutes. You know, we're the guys that are actually making the results. So you guys have to understand this. Everybody listening, okay? And it's counterintuitive for me to say this for the panel here as well. But just because somebody has a large following doesn't necessarily mean that their advice is valid. There's no you have to stop associating follower count with value. It's not real. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, well, the other thing you got to point to too is a lot of guys with a follower account bought a lot of their followers, and you can easily tell by the ratio between engagement and the follower account. I just wanted to. Rollo's like that little voice of I just wanted to mention that there's a link I posted in the chat. Open it up in a new browser. It's a window, not a window. It's a video that I published a day or two ago. But it ties into what you were talking about earlier, Troy, with hypergamy and, you know, like how it works with women, and do they ever like contract out of it? And it's only if it's satisfied, right? One, it's only if it's satisfied, and two, it's if they don't have any other better options, right? So she's, you know, she's become overweight. She just looks terrible. She doesn't like, the guy could be locking himself in his room on antidepressants, not doing anything with his life, not going to work. She's still not going to leave him because her SMV isn't high enough to properly execute an exit, right? So there's always that component of, did she optimize her hypergamy? Is it the best that she can do? Is her SMV high enough that she can actually make an exit? So there's a lot of other parts to it as well. I mean, Rollo talks about it in depth, and, you know, those are really just a lot of my observations as well.
Yeah, I mean, this idea that there are sort of women out there who are different, and actually the day game guys talk about this as well, don't they? The RK selected idea. So there's this idea that there are R selected women out there and K selected women, and what you've got to do is go and find a K selected good girl.
Yeah, because they got a big K smacked on their foreheads.
You guys can stop believing that.
And there
women
are
they hide their their ovulation cycle. What makes guys think they can figure this shit out?
Well, and they are selected in one time in their life, and they're K selected at another time of their life. How convenient. I was just talking about this, about the epiphany phase. I was getting into it with a very long Twitter screed, or not me, but like it was an exchange, and people got really upset that I was talking about how women will go through, or like it was this one girl who was, of course, like 29, 30 years old, and she's like, I'm going to be a virgin now, or I'm going to abstain from sex, and of course every religious girl comes out of the woodwork and goes, that's great, girl, you go. And all I have to do is say, yeah, it's convenient that you do that right now, because you're making rules for the beta males that you're attracting right now that you didn't have those rules for the alpha guys that you were nailing in your party years. You're a textbook example of everything I write about in preventive medicine. And people lose their minds. Oh, I can't believe that Rollo would say something like that. It's Jesus or it's God. How can you question the validity of this religious conversion that she has? And it's like, here's the thing. Maybe she's genuine. She's probably genuine about it. That's not what my point is. My point is that it comes at a convenient time, so predictably that I went and wrote a book about how predictable it is that at that stage of a woman's life, that's when she's going to come to that. And so these guys say, well, I want a K-selected woman, or I want an R-selected woman. It's like, well, okay, how old is she? Where is she in her life? Is she in her party years? Is she in her, it's very easy to find a K-selected woman who has like 2 kids from 2 different fathers, who happens to be like 32 years old. You will find them all over the place because they're looking exactly for a guy like you.
Mm.
You know the best part about that too, with that rules for betas things? A lot of the beta guys still have that glimmer of hope, thinking it's all about them being manipulated, when in reality, a lot of it is just women flexing with other women. Like, look what I can get this dude to do. He bought me dinner. Well, he bought me a ring. So they're almost, it's like they aren't even a factor. They're just they're the ball that they use to win the game against Stacy across the street.
One thing I noticed too is that, like, one thing I've noticed with, because Richard was talking about it earlier, we was talking about when you get on dating apps now, they're like, if you're not 6 foot, swipe left. A lot of chicks, especially in the States, they are no longer looking for a quality man, like a guy who's competently, can get the job done. What they're looking for, they're shopping for men like accessories for their social media these days. Like, can I show this guy off? Is he worthy for my girlfriend's validation? Because you have to realize, at the end of the day, when it comes to women and selecting their man, they have to select the guy that not only she approves of, but also her social circle approves of. Because if her social circle's like, yo, that guy's a loser, like, why are you with him? And all of them, they circle the wagons against her, you're not going to last very long. You're not going to last very long. And that's another reason why, because I know Ryan talks about all the relationship stuff. If you got a wife and she starts hanging out with all these divorce chicks, guess what's happening, bro? You're next.
Oh yeah, it's like a virus.
Dude, you are like, it's like fucking, it is definitely like a virus, man. And that's why men have to lead in the relationship, and you got to make sure, because if you want that shit to last, if you're invested, especially if you got married and you're at the whim of the divorce courts now, and you got children and all that stuff, you got to make sure your woman is not hanging out with a bunch of bums who are out to sabotage your relationship. Because as a man, if your relationship is a marriage or LTR, whatever common law thing, It's up to you to protect that relationship too, because she's not going to do anything to protect it. She's incompetent. She's a slave to other people's opinions. And if you don't do what you need to do to protect it, it's going to happen.
Funnily enough, actually, in my experience, one thing that sort of overrides that a little bit is if they think you're a bad boy, if all of the friends, because I've been in situations, right, where the girl is with me and the friends all think I'm an arsehole, but they don't think I'm an arsehole because they think I'm a schlub. They think I'm an arsehole because they think I'm a bad guy. But because the girl has been into me and she's wanted to, to keep it going for that reason, the friends kind of get a little bit neutralized in that scenario. They can't really say anything against it because the attraction to the bad boy archetype is strong. So even if the friends don't like you in that instance, then you can usually ride it out for a period of time at least. I think the difficulty is when you're presenting yourself as a provider again. Then the friends can look at you and go, well, hang on a minute. Troy hasn't got a Lambo. Troy hasn't got a townhouse with a swimming pool. So you could do better than that girl. So why don't you go and get somebody else? So it's the problems in these things always come about when you present yourself, when you're in the provider frame rather than when you're in the player frame. I find you can get away with so much more when you're in the player frame.
It's interesting. I'm looking at this article here, the What Do Women Want article. The very last one here is political views. Like, political views are important in Brazil and the United States. Now, I think probably these results have something to do with just how contentious we're going into an election cycle is right now. But I think this is interesting to me because it says here that 43.6% of women think that political similarity in a partner is important, or it has something to do with their I don't know, I guess attraction process. This kind of goes back to, I think this is sort of a line of BS, another sort of duplicity, if you will. When I'm talking, I've discussed this with Donovan Sharp before. It's like when a woman is into you, she will start to assume things about you, or she'll assume your behaviors, or she'll start liking the same foods you like, or she'll listen to the same music you dig on, or she'll be into your sports teams all of a sudden.
Political candidates.
Yeah, political candidates is another one of those. She'll start adopting your political views because of the intensity or the importance, really, of her to find a guy with which she can breed, with which she can, she
defers to the authority, put it simply.
Exactly.
That used to be the argument against suffrage too. It's that landowning married guys would get twice the voting power, and that's what their problem with it was.
Mm-hmm. Brazil is another one. That 44.2% in Brazil. I'm wondering why that would be.
What was it in the US?
US was 43.6%.
So
isn't that
basically what they're saying is about half the female population, which is pretty much gross, which is going to left lean anyway and vote Democrat. They're the same ones that are on dating apps that I get all these screenshots from guys saying, if you like Trump, swipe left, or if you support conservatism or something like that, swipe in the direction.
Don't have sex with your husband if you voted for Trump and not Hillary.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because remember when the Women's March happened and then Pornhub found that their traffic dropped 40% during it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think this is sort of a sign of the times with respect to the gender war that we're getting into right now. Like, this is something at least that's in popular consciousness right now, is that it should be more important for women, at least half of women in the United States. It should be more important for you to have a political similarity with a guy than to get with a guy who is maybe going to vote against your interests. Like, don't reward him with sex if he doesn't agree with your political ideology.
It's really funny. It's like when you I've done this a couple times in 2016 when I was in Orlando. When you hook up with a girl and you lie the whole time, you're like, yeah, totally hate Trump, and then you bang them, and she's like, can I have some clothing? And I give her a Make America Great Again shirt, and she's like, oh my god. But at the same time, they come back for more. They it's never a deal breaker. It's like it's a surface level thing, because again, going back to the reputation thing, Rollo, they care so much about what people think that the mainstream has decided that Trump is bad. Like, if you guys haven't woken up and see like the complete paradigm shift as soon as Donald Trump got elected, like every mainstream outlet started attacking him. Every celebrity is all of a sudden like a political analyst, and everybody's just turning on him, right? The reason is because they are just trying to get approval from like the sisterhood uber Alice, as Rolo likes to play it. You guys got to realize, like, when you're factoring in your seduction to a woman, your status is so important because of how a woman carries herself. And a woman really truly cares about her reputation so much, way more than you think she cares about you. And they will fight to protect that shit. And if you don't fit the bill, a lot of them, depends on how good your game is, how good you're piping them down. But a lot of them, if you're not playing the game right, like ultra on point, they will get rid of you at the end of the day.
And the other thing here is number 5, money is important in Japan, Mexico, Colombia, and the U.S. 50, well, just about 60% rate financial security. I don't know. See, here's the thing. I don't like, one of the flaws, of course, with self-reporting is you don't know how the questionnaire was. Well, is it more important? Is it less important? Is it sort of important? Is it unimportant?
She doesn't want to come off as a gold digger too.
Exactly. Right? But still, even on top of all that, even wanting to avoid the idea that maybe she would be considered a gold digger, even in a state of anonymity, at least 60% of the women are still saying that financial security is a big deal. And we saw this in that other poll about how women are looking for an economically attractive partner, and that comes down to, and this is the stats, that comes down to a man earning 58% more money than a woman does. Women want you to be on top of your game. They want you to be the primary breadwinner. They want you to be in that position of dominance. They won't call it that because that goes against the feminist narrative. But the fact of the matter is that on a hindbrain, on a limbic level, they want to defer to you. They want to say, you make more money than me, so therefore you make the decisions. And Rich, you and I think we were talking about financial important, finances when it comes to women on your show, your Thursday shows. And I always thought, after we got off of that show, I was thinking about this, and I go, that money really kind of defines, at least in a long-term relationship, it sort of defines the dominance hierarchy from within that relationship. That's why guys have a real problem when their wives make more money than they do. Now, there's going to be a million beta guys who are going to watch this and going to go, I don't care if they make more money. That's just great for me. Lets me do what I want.
They're desperate for pussy.
They're desperate for pussy, but they also are, they still like buy into this egalitarian nonsense. But and that's where I'm going with this, is that there's no such thing as an egalitarian relationship between men and women because of that evolved hierarchy, that evolved part of our hindbrains that says the man should be the one who is making and creating and earning more resources than he can expend, so he can have a family, he can have a wife, so he can have he can start his own little tribe, and therefore he needs to be the head of his tribe. And if that's not the case, even if it's equality from egalitarian equality from within, like supposed egalitarian equality from within that family, that still means he's not the one who's driving the truck. It's her who's driving the truck, because in a state of equality, the woman has something that the man is always going to want, which is to get laid, is pussy.
And having that financial success. I mean, John, you were talking to a guy yesterday towards the end of your show, and he ended up booking a call with me for next week.
Good job. Awesome.
Dude is doing really well, like super wealthy.
400,000 a year.
Yeah, makes a lot of money. His wife makes a fraction of what he makes, but even that is not enough. You have to be able to run the frame of the relationship. She has to look up to you. She has to complement your life. And if you haven't got all the elements encompassed, just making big bank isn't enough. There's a lot of nerdy rich guys out there in Silicon Valley that suck with women, right?
Yeah.
I could tell you stories, Rich. Like literally, I know somebody straight out of Silicon Valley just like that.
Yeah,
it's true. It's really true. Because dudes will be like, yeah, man, it's all looks and it's all money. But money. There are plenty of rich guys in London who take tables in nightclubs and buy champagne, and they go home on their own.
Yeah,
because they haven't got anything else going.
They're buying bottles for everybody, and then the one chat at the table's bringing 3 girls back to his place.
It's useful to a point.
A lot of girls too, when they go to nightclubs, they go home alone and they text some dude that they're already banging. That, like you guys think like that. Look, nightclubs are legitimately the worst ROI in regards to going out picking up chicks, in regards to time, money, and damage on your body via alcohol. And you got to get out of that that belief that every girl is going home and piping a dude that she met that night. It's very, very rare, even for ultra players.
Especially now, they got the guy on speed dial, so they'll go to the bar, build up the sexual energy, and then call him up at 3 with a hey. They don't need it anymore at the bar. In the 80s, maybe you had an argument. Yeah. In the 80s, maybe they had to take that guy home because, you can't landline somebody at 3 a.m.
Right.
Yeah. yeah. But girls will go to the club and they'll take the drinks, they'll take the champagne from the dudes on the table, and then they'll go and, if anything, they'll either hook up with somebody from there that they've already pipelined on Tinder, or they'll go home with the barman or something like that. It's not money in itself. Money gives you access, and it helps you with logistics. That's one thing. I mean, if you're Andrew Tate and you're sort of like, yeah, I met this girl in Brazil on Instagram, I'm just going to fly over there for the weekend. I mean, there's that kind of thing, but it doesn't give you frame in itself, and frame is what you need.
I'm not flying anywhere for pussy.
Well, you know what I mean. You can make, you can create, you can cause things to happen logistically. If you've got money, it just helps oil the wheels a little bit. But,
money creates options, is what it does, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it lets you make choices that you wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to make, and it tells you, lets you tell people to pound sand too if you don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah, so like a force amplifier, but if there's no talent there, it's not going to help you. Nobody wants to blow Bill Gates.
Yeah, it's definitely a force and personality amplifier as well, too, right? I mean, money will always amplify an asshole's personality, right?
Yeah,
no question about it.
Yeah, nobody wants to blow Bill Gates. Maybe we should do a poll and find out if that's true.
But he's so kind.
I wonder when the last time was that Melinda got into that, right?
If you read Mark Cuban's book, I forget the name of it, but he talked. It's like about. I forget, something about championship or something. I forget the name, but he talks about how when Bill was really crushing it in the 90s, how Mark was like hitting on some girls, and like Bill just swooped in and was like, "Hey bitches, let's go." They deleted his fucking ass real quick.
Yeah. Corey makes an interesting point here. What are you doing for my reputation? And that's true. But I had a brief thought on that, which is this. The reputation thing is all important for sure, but you can still get away with being the secret fuckboy in the background, right? So my friend Tom Torero used to talk about this a lot. He would say, she's not necessarily going to show you off to all of her friends. She's not necessarily going to make a big deal about it on social media. But if you've got the bad boy characteristics and she's attracted to you, then you could definitely keep something going with her in the background. But the issue is going to come when she wants to make that relationship public. She's not necessarily, unless you've got. So if you're the Trump supporter and you're an arsehole and you call her at 3 a.m. and she'll have sex with you, and you can keep that going for a while.
Dude, but you know how many girls out here? I'm their dirty little foreigner secret. Like they will never let their Japanese friends know that they're having sex with a foreigner.
I slept with a lot of girls that was revenge for dad not buying them that pony. So I totally feel you.
Well, and
I'm just dark enough that it'll piss dad off, but not so dark that it's weird or different.
Yeah. And that's great. That's great. Because which would it depends what your objective is. But if you're not particularly bothered about being the provisioning guy, if you're not particularly bothered about being the trophy boyfriend, then hell, you can get away with a lot. It's just about having the right frame.
Who gives a shit? I mean, I don't like. I don't like. Do you, Troy? You're a high level player and you're still doing the thing. When was the fucking last time you went on a date? Like, these days it's text to sex for me. Like, I don't gotta go be seen with you in public, bitch. No way. I got a reputation too.
A date is rewards for good behavior. It's not an interview to see if she's worth sleeping with. Like, I date my wife. I didn't date thoughts.
That's a thought by definition, right?
What, mine?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting today is like I can remember back in around 2012 when everybody was like coming down on me because they thought that I was in some way encouraging hookup culture. Like there was a blog, it's now defunct, but I used to lock horns with this chick, Suzanne Walsh, and she had a site called Hooking Up Smart. And
I remember that one.
If you look at any of my old essays from like 2012 to 2013 somewhere, I would reference her. I used to call her Aunt Giggles all the time. But she's gone. But she used to think that well, Rollo's just he's just encouraging cheap, easy, whatever sex. And it turns out that what, most millennials simply aren't having sex anyways. This generation. At least the current one right now, I can't say for Zoomers or Zillennials, whatever they are. But this generation is having the least amount of sex of any generation that has come prior to it. And, of course, MGTOWs want to say, well, that's because of Me Too and everything. It's like, yeah, well, that's part of it. But I think that this is also the most weesh generation for guys that has been around in a long time. So it's like to say oh, your plate spinning thing means that you're encouraging this wanton sex, or they'll give me grief about coming down on poly, but then I'll go and I'll say something about spin more plates kind of thing. And it's even me saying that, we're still living in an age where nobody dates anymore. We don't go out on a date. It's not like George Bruno, where we knock on her door and bring her flowers and say, let's go down to the dance, honey. That nobody does. That's like Happy Days, man. I mean, that's
George Bruno was bragging last night how he's such a fucking dork and he's staying home watching Netflix and eating pizza. He's like, I'm content. My friends invited me out, but I've got to wake up early and cut hair.
But nobody dates like
what
that
happened
anymore.
to all those 70-year-old babes that are orbiting around him that he keeps talking about?
But nobody dates like that. Nobody, if people hook up, they hook up. They meet up.
Yeah.
They meet up with their friends. They see a hot guy at a club. Bam, that's it, right? It's not
park.
Let's
People
go.
aren't even going to clubs anymore, Rollo. It's all fucking online.
True.
We're hooking up. We're banging on
True.
Instagram, mate.
True.
Dude, there's tabletop bars that you go out and play Dungeons and Dragons at a pub. And they got Monopoly and Settlers of Catan and all that stuff.
Those are levels of loserdom that are new to me.
Dude,
Oh, they're huge. There's
joke,
one
but
here in
they're
Reno,
huge.
actually.
For the one guy who doesn't smell like BO in there, you will clean up all kinds of nerd chicks.
You're going to be banging girls that are on Rich's show. They're 20 years old.
Yeah,
They're 500 pounds.
I was going to say, you're going to get that polyamorous whale that was on from Jacksonville the other day.
No, you're going to get
Roland
those Twitch chicks that John was banned from for talking
hell
shit
no.
about on his Instagram.
Hell no, those girls aren't in the nerd.
Check this out. Okay,
so stay at home and bang some chat in the site.
So check this out. So I just getting back to this article here. The money thing I thought was kind of interesting because to be considered economically attractive, you've got to earn half again at least what that woman is earning on her own. So there is that aspect of it. But then on number 6 here. Where is education very important when choosing a partner? All of these are South American countries. Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia rate in the 80s. They're looking for a partner who is educated, or at least more educated. The United States doesn't even rate on this list right now. The next is the UK at 55%. And then the next is Denmark at 50.2.
Can we get that on screen, Troy?
I still believe that lie that education.
Let me put it up. Hang on. I'll give it to you again.
And you got a good point on this too, Rollo. See, it's educated. It's not intelligent. It's not smart. It's educated. I would think if you put the option of a $60,000 a year lawyer with debt up against a $200,000 a year plumber, they will take that lawyer every time. It's not. It's a status thing. All of this stuff is status flexing to show off to Cindy how great of a man you can get by some weird, well, not weird, but there makes sense from traditionally why these status exist.
That's real high, 82% versus down at the bottom of the list is Denmark at 50, and
the U.S. isn't even on there.
That's because in Brazil, a chick has a chance of dying in the street if she doesn't have a husband with a good job, so that's why they care about it.
So you got to be smart enough to stay alive in Colombia.
Dude, have you been to Colombia? That place is a shithole. That place, I definitely agree with that. And I think the average, salary per month in Colombia is $700 US. So I think the education factors into finance, in my opinion.
I'm quite surprised UK's on that list. Actually, I don't know why. I can't immediately think why.
You mean Britain, Stan? I'm not surprised.
Uni's something that you pay for in Britain, Troy, or is it covered by the government?
No, tuition fees are quite high now. I don't think it's as high as the States, but no,
What about tuition in places like Colombia and Mexico? Do you pay for post-secondary education for university, or is it included in the social programs?
That's a good question. I quite honestly don't know.
Don't know about Colombia.
Is John B in the chat? Because he lives in Colombia. I wonder if he's in there. I don't see him. Anyway,
That'd be interesting.
What if it's a status thing, like the Oxford educated guy? If that's still a status,
that's what I was thinking. I think there's still an element of.
I got a guy in Tokyo who every time he makes his new Tinder account, when he does the reset, he puts his picture of him in his suit and he puts that he went to Harvard. and the Japanese girl's like, "Oh my god, you went to Harvard?" He's like, "Yeah. You've been to Boston before?" They're like, "No, what's it like? Tell me."
It's great. Let me tell you all about Harvard law, sweetheart.
I think there's a lot of guys, like most of those article, or most of the segments of that article right there, are things that I think it gives hope to guys who are like more on the beta end of the spectrum. Like, if I do these things, if I'm more educated, if I make more money, if I'm the same political stripe as this girl, if I smile more and I'm more vulnerable and all this other stuff, that it seems like, wow, guys can actually measure up, right? We can actually do something about this. It doesn't matter that I have a dad bod. In fact, maybe even women like dad bods, but that doesn't matter. All I got is a smile and make, do the things that I'm doing already. But then that doesn't work for them. And they don't, then they come to me and they go, well, I'm doing everything they tell me I should do, Rollo. Why is it that this isn't working? John, help me out here. What's my body language like? I don't understand why all this crap isn't working. But this right here, this article is really part of blue pill conditioning to give you guys some sort of hope that this could work. I'm not saying these aren't important. They are. But they're not as important as other things that are being withheld from you because it's not, expedient for women to find a guy who is a good provider, a good dad.
Do you think there's a bit of genuine cognitive dissonance with women though, where they will genuinely they genuinely believe? It's not that they're sort of like lying. It's not they're sitting there in front of the survey like trying to how can I mislead the population. It's like they actually believe a lot of the stuff. If you
look up the definition in the dictionary of like cognitive dissonance, there's just a confused woman sitting there. I mean,
I've dated girls and they've said things. I've dated plenty. You date girls and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm not so bothered about
XYZ,
XYZ or something like that." And then you look at the films they watch, you look at the social media stuff they're into. And you're like, come on, and it's sort of like, I think there's sometimes an element of genuinely being misleading, but I also think that they will tell themselves one story because it seems more acceptable, but what they actually viscerally respond to is something different.
Royce had a really, before his site went down, before Hartis went down, he had this really great post from back in the day, like when he was actually writing, and it was called "Women's Standards Crumble Like a House of Cards When You See, when it comes to their actions," kind of thing. It was a really great article. I wish I could probably get it on a Wayback Machine or something like that. But he used this example of this woman who was telling friends of hers or his, like, I need a guy who's this, he's got to be this tall, has got to have a good job. And it's like pretty much all of the things that we're reading about here in this article. And then a week later, she introduces her boyfriend, and the guy is maybe has 2 of the 20 things she wanted him to have, but she's more than happy to be with him. Because I think a lot of women think that even if as long as the guy is hot, as long as the guy measures up in some way that is important to her, that other stuff is something that she can like either put off, or maybe he can work on, or maybe I can turn him into this guy. And that's where a lot of the stuff, like when we talk about how like women can't lock down the alpha of their party years, how they want him to be, they want to tame Tarzan, but they could never get the guy to commit. They could never, he was going to be, so they call him a Peter Pan boy or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that they found a guy who they liked having sex with, who was fun and exciting. And she, the alpha widow that she's widowed from, the alpha that she's widowed from. But the real story is this is the guy that she couldn't tame. This is the guy who had all this great qualities as, a guy, and was fun to have sex with, but he could never make, he was always going to be a garbage man. He was always going to be, who he was. And she wanted, once she got to be in her epiphany phase, she needed a guy who was going to be a better match, or somebody who's got more money. And a lot of guys will see that and they realize this narrative that's going on. And that's how you get what I call betas in waiting. And it's these guys who will just wait it out, and they'll go, the woman will say, oh, I was so crazy in my college years, but I'm over that now. I want to do things the right way, and they're
I don't want to have meaningless sex.
I don't want to have meaningless sex anymore. What they're really saying is, I couldn't get that hot, attractive, exciting alpha guy to commit, but you'll do, because you have all the things that I now have a priority for needing. And what happens is that plays to these guys' sort of sense of self, the betas in waiting, their sense of self-righteousness, because now their ship has finally come in. Now all the stuff that they, sticking it out and sticking to their guns till they got to be 30, and now they're actually doing something with themselves. Now Ryan, Cindy wants to get with this guy because all right, man, finally, see, I told you. And then so you get these really self-righteous betas who say, well, if you just stick to your guns and wait it out, then you're going to be attractive. And it's like,
dude,
you're so attractive,
juvenile, though.
Because
think of the guys at kickball practice.
Mm-hmm.
You think of those guys, he's the last one picked for his team, and he's like, yes, I'm on the good team. It's like, dude, you were the last one picked.
Yes.
No, you're associate. You're thinking way too highly of people.
But I think guys do genuinely see that as an advantage. They see that as a silver lining, because I remember once, and I possibly did in my sort of blue pill days, if you like. I remember reading an article once saying it gets much easier for guys when you're over 30, because you've got all these girls who are, and effectively it was saying you've got all these girls who are over 30 and they've had their fun and now they want to settle down. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, well, that's all right then. There's a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. And I think if guys don't learn about this stuff, then they will think, okay, well, there's hope for me, because when she's had her fun, when she's had enough time of carousing, then maybe I'll be able to lock her down. But of course, part of coming into this space and part of taking the red pill, for want of a better term, is to realize it doesn't have to be like that for you. You shouldn't be just prepared to settle for second best, if you like. You should be, you should be getting the best deal that you possibly can. And actually, if you do the right things, you can get a very, very good deal out of the marketplace. But you've got to put in the work. You've got to be persistent. And you've got to make the necessary life changes, to get there.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys ever read? I'm sure most of you guys have read this, but you've read the post I did called "Saving the Best."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that is still one of my highest trafficked essays in the history of the Rational Male.
Oh yeah, that's your version of Ed Lattimore and crack jokes.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, see, and you have to remember that when I wrote Betas in Waiting, it was in response to all the traffic I was getting from Saving the Best, because a lot of guys found themselves in that position where it's like the girl that was not sexual with them, or didn't want to give them blowjobs, or didn't want to be as sexual as she was with the alphas in her party years. That's getting harder and harder for women to sort of keep under wraps, particularly in the age of the internet. And there's video of her, getting off with guys, or partying with her friends, or dancing on the tables, and she's with guys that she says she has no more interest in. Right. And so it's going to get harder and harder, I think, for women to sort of cover up the fact that they had party years, that they were really into that kind of stuff before, but you'll do now. And guys are kind of going, well, why did that guy not have the rules to have sex with you that I had? And that's why you're going to see a lot of this sort of scrambling to rationalize, the hamster, right? To rationalize why she isn't as sexual with her husband, who she's decided that she wants to spend the rest of her life with. But she was happy to go and do all this sexual gymnastics and was really enthusiastically into it with the guys when she was in her party years in her college, when she was, I was so crazy in college. And so these guys right now are realizing this. These are the beta and waiting guys, and they see that what she says, what she did doesn't mesh, doesn't gel with who she says she is right now. And so women might even say, well, I'm really not like that anymore. And they might even mean that. They might say, I'm really not like that anymore. But those guys think that they're getting their wife or their girlfriends or whatever their long-term relationship is, They think they're getting her sexual best because that woman has decided to spend the rest of her life with him. You're not going to get that, because her sexual best was when she was 23, not when she's 30.
Well, her sexual best with a beta is far different than the sexual best she's going to give to the alpha, right?
Yeah.
Well,
It's like the transactional versus the
making
validation
rules
sex.
versus breaking rules. She'll break the rules for the alpha, and she'll make more for the beta. And if you're the beta husband, guess what? You've got a lot of rules.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the thirst out there is such that dudes will continue to accept that. They'll just be like,
100%.
Because she'll rationalize it and she'll say, yeah, I was different before, but I want to do everything properly now because you're special. And guys, and there's enough thirst out there that guys will just go, yeah, fair enough. You know, she's being the good girl now. I'm going to play along with that because then I get my piece of the pie sort of thing.
When they wife up these whores, you know, they're entitled to lifelong crazy sex, aren't they? I mean, that's what they believe anyway, that they're going to get reliable, steady source of sex.
And those guys, those same beta guys, and to a great extent, a lot of MGTOWs like to beat themselves up over that. Oh, she had sex with that. She's still pining for these alphas. I'll never be able to trust women again. I'll never be able to have the relationship that she had with this guy back in the day. And maybe that's true, but I think you don't do yourself any favors by beating yourself up over that. I think really
I'm starting to see, Rollo, why people hate you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you point to some very uncomfortable truths that aren't very flattering.
Why is it that
dudes to do more work?
Why is it that saving the best is the most trafficked essay on my
These
site?
guys aren't stupid. They fucking know. The girls know that they don't have options. The guys don't. So they make up this lie so that everybody feels better about a suboptimal life.
Yeah.
And so when you point out that that's a lie, you're telling them the emperor has no clothes, to which their response is, screw you, Rollo.
Mm-hmm.
Screw
you for making me aware of it.
Yeah, and that's why the let's say the debate gets so heated, and why you get the Stebbins and everybody who are so vehement about this, because
then they blame it on the
they go straight to character attacks because that's how they're taking this.
Well, they blame it on they see me, because I make them aware of that. They see me as that alpha that she's pining for, right? And I'm saying, hey, look, you know, your bitch was all into having sex with me back when I was 22 years old. Now you're 32. You don't get anything like she invited me to your wedding because she wanted to be reminded of the great sex that she had. You know, I've talked to guys who say, I don't know how I should feel about this. I'm secure enough in my masculinity that it's okay that she wanted to invite her alpha Chad boyfriend that she had sex with at 23 because they're still good friends. They're saying, I'm okay with that. That's no problem. Hey, he's going to give us a great wedding present. You know, and they'll try to make up reasons why that's okay, but they don't. But Rollo Tomasi comes in and he says, the reason for this, because she's pining for that guy, and she wants to remind herself of that. No, you're horrible, or they'll blame me. They'll say, you're the guy who's ruining good women. You're the reason why we have to make women great again, right? Because they met guys like Troy, they met guys like John, they met guys like all of these dudes, and they ruined them for us. And now the great hot monkey sex that they had with you, we don't get that because now it's mitigated. It's mitigated by the desire that they still continue to have.
Now we're going to put on a whole conference just to tell girls that they should be fucking guys like us instead. A great expense.
And we'll get other girls to tell you.
Let me tell you something real quick. Has anybody watching The Mandalorian? Is anybody?
Yes.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So have you seen the scene in episode 4 when the Mandalorian's looking at Baby Yoda and he's like, listen, stay here. Do not come with me. Do you understand me?
Yes.
And he opens the door and who's standing right next to him ready to go? It's little Baby Yoda. That's what you fucking guys are doing with women. Like, stop being a whore. Stop sucking dick. And you're just like, dude, you're talking to a little Baby Yoda thing, just like, you can't logically convince a woman like you logically
appealing to reason. You're appealing to reason.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to use. I'm sorry, but in girl world, you know what you have to use? You got to use shame. You got to use public humiliation. That's how they work. And guess what? Unless society is not on your side, you're just gonna have another Baby Yoda do whatever the fuck it wants.
Too, right? You know, shame is slowly being removed from your toolbox, gentlemen.
Am I the only one here who watches John's whole aesthetic with that rant with like amazement? I got bathrobe Santa,
with the hand
Mandalorian with horse.
I'm telling you, baby. I'm one of a kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, absolutely. I got to run. Are we going to wrap up on the 90-minute mark?
Yeah, let's wrap up now. So on that somewhat controversial point, so I want to just go around the panel quickly and just see what everyone's up to next week. So Rich, did you want to let us know what?
Thanks.
What's
so I've got a Playing to Win episode live on Thursday night with my buddy Adrian, and this guy is a marketing genius. He very early on in his career figured out how to get one of his very first companies on CSI, and it was like a DNA canvas pop sort of thing with like your DNA on it sort of thing. So he has a way to hack media to get yourself exposure. So he's going to tell his Batman origin story, you know, kind of like the Playing to Win story. So check that out Thursday night at 8 p.m. And if you're guys in my community, we've of course got our weekly live private broadcasts and Q&A. So we'll see you guys there. Thanks.
Great stuff. Cool. And Rollo, what have you got going on this week?
Okay. Well, I'm going to be doing my show, of course, tomorrow with Pat Campbell. That'll be at 4:30 Eastern time. I think we might get into a little bit deeper with the cuckoldry story. I guess, you know, the poly story that we were talking about on Friday about the me and Rich talked about it, the really nasty looking chick and the 4 dudes. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit. I don't know what else we're going to be, what the topic is that we're going to be getting into, but in just a matter of hours here at 1 p.m. Eastern, I will be on Into the Gap with, it's a terrestrial radio show in Chicago. I usually go on it about like once or twice a month. So that's my turns next. So that'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern today. So actually coming up here very soon. I put the link in the chat right there, and if you missed it, just check my Twitter feed, and you can listen live anywhere online. Yeah, there it is right there. So you can listen to it anywhere online, and that's always fun because it's a terrestrial radio show. So these are people who are unfamiliar with who I am and what I do and what I write. So we always get into some conversations that I wouldn't otherwise expect to. So check that out. That's what I'm doing. And I'm working on book 4.
Great stuff. Awesome stuff. And John, what's your plans for the week?
We're going to be going live here on my channel doing Dude Party. It's going to be happening here at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Join me and Abu American and Corey from A God Amongst Men as we get on. And we're going to talk about how to beware of false red pill teachers, and we're actually going to go down the panel of the 21 convention and dissect every one of these fraudsters. And then
you have to do it now. I would love to be on that.
December 26th, guys, Body Language Mastery, the final enrollment is going to be happening this upcoming December 26th. You're going to go right here, modernlifedating.com/body language. Get on the waiting list. There's limited enrollment. I'm telling you, if you want to be on a private coaching session with all the guys on this panel behind the paywall, behind the secrecy, we're going to have it. None of it's going to be broadcasted. So we're going to have full transparency, and you'll be able to talk to all the guys on the panel. You get a head to toe breakdown of female body language. I'm actually adding a section on male body language. 3 weeks, 4 hours a day of coaching starting in January. So start off the year correct. And then you also get access to the men's only Facebook group. The value is through the roof. The testimonies are through the roof. The signups are through the roof. If you're not going to get in, then quite honestly, you're going to miss out. But don't go another year delaying your progress as a red pill coach or as a red pilled student, and get in. modernlifedating.com/body language, and then Dude Party links in the chat. We're going to be going live at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Great stuff. And Ryan, what you got going on?
On mine, the videos coming fast and heavy. We're actually going to go get some tiles. So our coffee videos are going to have proper walls right now. Some Liechtenstein stuff, really cool. The newsletter, putting that back on because the book is slow going on the second draft. So I'm going to get back to sending guys advanced copies of the material that's coming out of my book. Links in the chat. Sign up to that. You'll get that. It should be daily or every 2 days at the most, where you'll actually get fairly good red pilled content, something straight to your inbox there. And after this, funnily enough, I'm also going to my own version of with Inside the Gap, but not going to be filming that one. It'll be just as fun though, but I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Great stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, I've got videos coming out pretty much every day, Monday to Friday on my YouTube channel. So this is, which we're on today, by the way. So this is the first time I've hosted Rule Zero on the channel. It's been great to have all you guys on here. So many thanks for coming. If you're watching this, please do subscribe to my channel because I put out videos, as I say, Monday to Friday, sometimes at the weekends as well. I'm doing a lot of live streaming on the channel now, talking about various red pill topics, as well as dating, charisma-related material as well. So that's going really well. I do a podcast on Monday, so it'll be out this Monday. I do hit the subscribe button, and do also, if you want to get hold of my collection of 10 books about dating, game, the sexual marketplace, sex, all of that amazing stuff. It's called Renegade Dating Blueprint. You can get it for just $39 on the link below. It's going to be discontinued at the end of the year, so do jump on board with that today because, frankly, it's bloody awesome. And I think that is about it, gentlemen. So thanks everyone for joining me today. It's been a great show, and we will. Good job. Many thanks, and we will leave it there for now. We'll be back with you on Rule Zero next week. And we will publicize the channel that it's going to be on during the week. So watch out, follow everyone on Twitter, etc. for details on that. See you later.
Peace.